Today's guest is quietly leading a healthcare revolution from the inside out. He went from Stanford classrooms and startup experiments to driving digital transformation inside a Fortune 500 automotive giant before taking on one of the most broken systems in the world, healthcare. In this episode, we dive into his entrepreneurial journey, break down the concept behind Healthcare 3.0, and why look good, feel good, and perform at your best might actually be the most honest health framework out there. In this episode, you will learn about leadership, family, faith, building teams at scale, and what it really takes to be an industry disruptor. This one will make you rethink your body, your business, and your decision-making framework.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, where entrepreneurs and business owners come together to power up on their journey to greatness. My name is Bobby Mascia, owner of many businesses, including my passion, a wealth management firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs. My life totally changed when I made a conscious decision to design my businesses to run themselves, not me and my time. If you're looking to get unchained from your business, make more money, and have more time, listen to the experiences of other successful entrepreneurs here on Business Unchained.
Bobby Mascia is the founder and CEO of Greenridge Wealth Planning. All opinions expressed by Bobby and his guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinion of Greenridge Wealth Planning. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast.
Please welcome the founder of Eden, a true healthcare visionary, Josh Kahn.
So, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I know the last time we've been kind of in touch since we were on that podcast together in New York, and the story that you have in terms of how you got to where you are, and even when the cameras went off and the microphone was shut down, and you and I spent some quality time just kind of catching up and learning more about each other. I just thought it was completely fascinating. You coming from your background and getting into kind of the healthcare industry in the fashion in which you did. I'd love for you to share your journey and the impact that it's made not only on you, but the impact that you're looking to make on the world with your viewpoint on healthcare and the company.
Yeah. No, thanks, Bobby. And it was great, to get to know you a little bit more in New York. I think it was, likewise, hearing a lot about how you came from, the background that you had and all the things you built. It was impressive.
Well, we share a lot of that family dynamic, which was super interesting as well,
Yeah.
We're like two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Separated at birth.
Separated at birth, maybe a few months apart or something, But yeah, no, so it's cool. My background is kind of weird. It's definitely atypical for people that are in the space I'm in today, which is healthcare. One of the place that I really got my start. So I'll give you the master class real quick.
I love master class.
The winter of 2019, all the COVID is coming in. And, it's like the end of the world. People are like, what the hell's going on? At this point, I had a couple kids and I was like, looking at my kids. I'm like, I do not want to tell my kids that during like this global pandemic, dad was shilling car parts on the internet. That didn't sit with me really well. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go and try to do something that's actually going to be helpful for the world. And I personally started thinking about like the places that had failed me, because I feel like if they had failed me, it probably had failed other people, because I'm not that special. I'm just like a normal guy. And so I ended up
come on, you're so humble.
Yeah, no, I really though, so I started realizing, like, hey man, the healthcare system is just a joke. Like, it is just so broken inside.
But it's like an intimidated type of broken, like the kind of project most people look at and go, that's like a fucking Mount Everest times 2.
Yeah, it's like Kilimanjaro a little bit. Yeah. I'd say government is like, Everest, and like healthcare is like a close second on, like a Helen or something. But yeah,
I'll support that argument.
Yeah. So we, so I start figuring out like who's really doing stuff. And I ended up finding this startup. I ended up becoming like the first or second hire, like, brought in to basically like do the go-to-market and like figure out how to run this business. And like at that time, there was no such thing really as like direct-to-consumer telehealth. Like there's no like, like large companies where you could just like go and like get a prescription after you do an asynchronous form and like have it delivered to your house.
We were just talking about how the whole process of health insurance and how little attention doctors pay because they have to go through this churn cycle. And then you have to go to these appointments that become like mandatory in order for you to get your prescription. Whereas like, why can't it just be a telehealth appointment? Why can't there be something a little bit more efficient? So we were just talking about this literally 2 days ago.
Exactly. It like impacts so many people. And that's where I'm like, dude, if it happens to me, it has to happen to other people. And like the reason why I really got into it again, because this COVID thing, I was looking at my kids and I got these 2 kids at that point. Now I have 5. I have the 6th coming in August. But like I'm looking at them like, dude, I don't want
Congrats. I didn't know about the 6th coming in August.
Yeah, me either till about a couple weeks ago. So
wow, busy over there.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen, cheaper by the dozen. Keep going.
But yeah, so I end up like kind of like pioneering with these guys at the startup that I was at. Really what it looks like to start building this. And I love those guys. A great group of folks. They just had a slightly different view on like how they wanted to approach it. Whereas like, again, like all positive stuff, like their real like goal is like just to not die. Like they like really believed in like this concept of like longevity and like just living forever. And that never really like stuck with me. I'd rather just like help people have a really healthy health span. So like you enjoy the 80, 90 years you have on Earth and then you just kind of go kaput, as opposed to like trying to live, into, I don't even know, space ages and stuff. It wasn't my thing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go start my own version of this kind of concept and do it my way. And since then we've been able to help like, hundreds of thousands of people. We have a huge active patient base. And
so you met these guys, they were a startup and you said, don't really love the program. I'm going to go do my own thing. How did you etch out this idea? Did you have somebody, because I can only imagine how much research it takes and how much experience it takes in the healthcare industry to even understand how to navigate some of the issues that there are, not to mention probably the personal experiences that you had and some of the pains that you had. How did you connect those dots?
Yeah, it comes out of like just, for me, I just really like people. Like I just genuinely enjoy getting to know people and like hanging out and like having a good time with human beings. I know it's like a novel concept today, but so just like kind of like networked my way into like other people that are just like way smart at this stuff and like just like picking their brain and getting an understanding of like, how does this space work? Why is it so broken? And I got to know a lot about like functional medicine and like how like, these guys aren't like quacks, you know what I mean? They're not like crazy, like the crystal people that are like talking about healing energies and like all this other crazy shit that happens in obscure health. But like, there's actually people that like do care about how do you actually look at a person as a personalized use case for health. Like things with genetics and pharmacogenetics, like all these other concepts that like kind of marry together. It's like, I got like a crash course from like a lot of like the world's leaders at like A4M and like some huge.
And that's like getting to the core root of the issue, not like treating these symptoms, but rather going to the core issue that's happening in your body that's producing those symptoms.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And for me, I like thought about it and I was like, dude, it's so simple. Like, and where I had, like I said, like a very big divergence of thought of like where I was at versus where I wanted to go is that some people want to like look at like these huge things like this, like aging is a disease and stuff, which is great. Like I can totally see it. I don't disagree with them at a functional level, but I think this human beings just fundamentally don't give a shit about that. Like what they actually care about is that people want to look good, they want to feel good, and they want to have great sex. Like people are like very simple. Like, like we're primal beasts. So if you're able to like tell someone like, hey, you're going to look better with a shirt off, you're going to feel better and be able to keep up with your kids, and you're still going to have a very active libido into your, older years, that's like music to most people's ears. That's like all the shit they really want to do. And like, you think about it, and the core issues of like why that stuff doesn't happen is because you have poor metabolic health. And so like, there's this concept of like metabolic syndrome and like, what does that mean? And like, there's like these 5 factors that people look at, and like, it's boring science. Most people don't even give a shit about that. They're just like, hey, I don't want to be fat. I want to feel my best. I want to feel like I did when I was 20 forever. until I die, basically. And I want to be able to like can stay up and keep up with my wife.
Dude, sign me up, man. All three of those.
Right? Like that's
check,
it.
Check.
And so it's really not a super novel concept.
Maybe in reverse order. I don't know. We'll talk about the order later.
I mean, you're like me. That's how you end up with 6 kids. But you know, it is what it is. But so we put this thing together. I have a partner, and we like kind of really fundamentally aligned on like this concept of like what it looks like. And we also then started thinking about, like you had said earlier, like, you know, healthcare 1.0 was like, hey, like back in, you know, I don't know, like Stone Ages, right? Like you got sick and the medical, like, you know, guy was like some guy with a voodoo mask and he'd like put, you know, spices on you and you'd be like, oh, great, thanks for the help. And like you die of like typhus or whatever. That was like healthcare 1.0. Like, you know, like that's like, hey, we know you're sick, we're going to try something. And like that persisted until like, you know, like the 50s or 60s in the US. Like it was just, you go see someone, they give you some Coke and you just feel like energized. And then like healthcare 2.0 became like, oh, well,
you had opium in like your general cough syrup. I mean,
yeah. Like CVS opium, like branded and shit. But, yeah, so it was wild stuff until like the 50s, 60s. And then like GPs started getting good. Like, well, you know, there's a lot to this whole medicine stuff. So we're going to like create specialties and we're going to go like, hey, you know, you got high blood pressure. We're going to send you to a cardiologist. You know, you can't piss well. We're going to send you to an endocrinologist. You know, like all these like very specialty things that like just start again treating for a system as opposed to for a person. And so like everyone forgot that like, again, even in capitalism, like it's really about how do you do the best work for a person. And so like for me, it's like in healthcare 3.0, it's like different. It's like built around like these outcomes for people as opposed to like, you know, specific, you know, niche things. And
so your purpose when you got into this was essentially what your version of healthcare 3.0. When you start to think about and go through the process of like really ironing out what it is that you wanted to offer and what it was people were looking for. And like you said, most people, they might be looking for certain things, but they really don't give a shit. They want to boil it down to the simplest thing, which are the 3 things you said, which is I want to feel good, I want to look good, and I want to be able to have longevity in my energy and libido.
Yeah.
How did you then take that concept of like, okay, purpose, I'm out there, like I think I've got it nailed. I have a partner. We've been talking to these really smart people. Now we have to monetize it. Where did that come into the conversation for you guys in terms of
yeah, I mean, it's like anything, like money solves a lot of problems. So we were like, hey, you know, how's the way that we're going to get the most reach to really start impacting the most amount of people? And it also just so happened to kind of coincide with, I'm sure you've heard about like Wegovy and like, you know, like Ozempic and like this huge explosion of like the adoption of GLP-1s. Well, you know, there's a time and a place for using those, but like you really think about it, and access to those types of drugs is super hard. Like again, even in the 2.0, most GPs like won't want to write that prescription for someone. Like, oh, you just need to just go work out harder and diet. It's like, no, dude, right. 40 something percent of the US is obese. Like, I think that we have something else going on that maybe we should like take a look under the hood and see what's actually happening. And so we were like, okay, well, how about we just democratize access to these types of medications early in the cycle and then become like the go-to place to then build out all the other stuff that we want to build. And so like we exploded, you know what I mean? Like the growth that we had was insane. Like just providing access to these medications, you know, for the first 2 years of the business's existence was like, I've never even seen growth like that. And so like it came with a whole host of other challenges of like, you know, like the staff and like regulatory and all the other stuff that happens. And so it's kind of like a baptism by fire, where we're like, hey, we're going to do this. We did it. And then it exploded. And we're like, holy shit, now what do? We have to like hire teams and like we have to scale up to 150 employees in like a year. Like, you know, we have to be all 50 states. We have to have the best legal team in the world because we're selling drugs on the internet. Like, and so we kind of like took that. And then we took
now, how does that work with insurance and the pharmaceutical companies? Like, are you playing the intermediary to do the pricing? Is it going direct through insurance? Like, how were people from going to meeting you guys, getting the telehealth appointment, starting on your program? And I definitely want to get into what that program looks like, but just out of curiosity, I was thinking about just GLP-1s and the explosion of them. I mean, how did you manage that piece of it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So for me, I'm going to say something that probably is going to get me in trouble when my team goes back and looks at it. But I think insurance is a fucking scam, dude. I hate it. I will never, as far as I have power to do so, I will never want to work with insurance, because this whole concept, like, and I encourage anyone that's listening to this also just look into what I'm going to explain, but how insurers work with the insurance companies, the PBMs, and then the pharmacy networks themselves. So essentially, like, you have these big companies like, Aetna, who will buy like a CVS Caremark. And then like basically it's like a fox in the hen house, where it's like, I'm a person, I am sick, I need to get access to this thing. I go through my insurer. My insurer then tells the pharmacy what is to be covered and what is not. And then there's all sorts of kickbacks and like really.
Yeah, this just went through the House of Representatives recently, I think.
Yeah, and it's a travesty, truthfully. And for me, what I really see, like the vision I have in the future, is that like that type of insurance, if the model that I'm building is going to be as successful as I think it is, that model of like the old style insurance is dead. Like it's not required anymore, because all it does is enrich a small number of people as opposed to actually help humanity. And so like what happens is, like, for us, we don't even take insurance. We're like exclusively cash pay. And the vision that I have around this is like insurance will literally only be used for like catastrophic stuff. Like think about like your car insurance. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like you're not like, if you don't want to pay for anything other than collision and a deductible, you should be able to. Like you shouldn't be forced to be like, oh, I have to get this specific drug, I have to see this specific doctor. Like imagine if your insurance company on your car said, oh, you know what? There's this part from Sudan that you can get, but you can't get the OEM, and you have to go to this very specific, like third world installer. You have to like drive all the way over there, and then you also have to pay us for any overages on their time if they go over their allotted hours. Like you see what I'm saying? Like that would just never work. We have this for our cars. We don't have this for ourselves. And so for me, it's like, okay, I think that we just completely abandon how this current insurance model works. And you literally just say, hey, like if you're on someone's operating table, like sure, dude, like no one should be out of like pocket, like 60, 70 grand. But then you think about all the other stuff and like the premiums will go down. But like really, like most of
but the whole thing is such a scam, because 60, 70 grand for that insurance, as you start to itemize it, has been inflated so much because they know only a certain portion is going to be covered by the insurance company. So they're trying to max it. It's like a total numbers game. It's like, it's crazy.
It is like you're paying like $80 a sheet of toilet paper and those surgeries, man. It's incredible. But I think that if you start shedding light, like I think light is like the ultimate disinfectant. I think the more and more people like start to understand like what is really happening and like why insurance actually isn't really required. Like so for us, one of the things that we did really different, right, is that we actually believe in what we're doing. So much so that we bought our own pharmacy and we bought our own health club. Like we built these things from the ground up. So like we have a 503A compounding pharmacy that's in New Mexico that is personalizing medication for tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people a month. And like, you think about like the real future state of stuff. Like today, the way the FDA works is like you have to go through this huge like 20, 30 year process to get drug approvals and like all these like crazy shit that you have to do. It's like billions of dollars to go through, as opposed to like, hey, like if you remember like 7, 8 years ago, Trump came out with this thing called right to try for people that are like, basically like about to die or whatever. And they're like, hey, just let me try something. I think that we should be adopting those types of principles for like how people just do general medicine. Like you should just have the right to work with your doctor the way that the doctor wants to write a prescription. And then like, imagine instead of having to take like, I don't know if you have any older friends, like, called geriatric friends, but you go to their house and you look and like, they have like a huge pill bottle, like selection, like Monday to Sunday thing. Yeah. And like, there's like 50 pills in each one, right? Imagine that in the future state, it's just one pill you take every day because all that stuff's been compounded into one thing personalized for you based on what your doctor wants you to do. And so, like, to me, it's like, then you really don't.
Well, the doctor's mindsets and mentalities are so been driven by these health insurance that they actually need a reset also, because it's a lot of it is is, they've been driven down a certain path because that was the way that they had to practice medicine, not necessarily everything that they learned in med school.
I have a lot of friends that are doctors, believe it or not, in this space. And I tell them all the same thing. Some of them get mad at me for saying it. Others kind of laugh, and others vehemently agree with me. Is that what modern medicine has really done is it's encouraged rote learning and encouraged people to essentially say, hey, I study for the test, I take the test, I pass the test. I study for the test, I take the test, I pass the test. And so that's promulgated itself beyond just like the graduation process. Because now what happens is then you have these big pharma people come in and like the doctors have to worry about continued education, to keep up their licenses.
Yeah.
So who's publishing a continued education? It's the people making the drugs. And they're like, hey, if this person has this, this, and this, it's in the book. Your book says this. Your malpractice insurance will only cover you if you do this specific things in between these lines. If you do stuff outside of this, you might not be covered. And so you start to see like we've created a system that actually does not help people. It just helps these organizations. And like if you start flipping that on its head and you start saying, well, what if you just said, hey guy, hey, Bobby, do you agree to like working with this doctor and having a personal relationship with them to build out the right plan for you at scale? And like, again, leveraging a lot of the AI and like the co-piloting and all the stuff that used to not allow this stuff to happen, but now it does allow this to happen. That's where I think we're going, right? I think that's
how do you deconstruct it though? How do you take something apart that is so mangled and disjointed and smashed together into one big, it's like trying to take an aluminum foil ball that you wrapped up after you'd shredded it up and then squeezed it together, and you're trying to put it back into a thin sheet by pulling it apart one edge by the next. Like, how do you envision that happening?
Yeah, I think it's
without like going Tyler Durden and in Fight Club and just blowing up the entire system.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we're trying to work on. I mean, maybe not so much the Fight Club side. Sometimes I think about that though. I'm like, man, it'd be so much easier. But no, there's a couple angles to approach it. So the first one is if you just give people like incredible outcomes, like they're going to start demanding this more and more and more. Like the same thing can be seen in like any industry you look at. Like, you look at like vehicles, you look at airlines, you look at anything. Like there's a reason why Spirit Airlines is going out of business and Delta is like, posting record profits. Like that outcome, the experience, like the knowing that something is going to work for that person, people will pay for that. And then they'll start voting with their wallets, right? Like people do this all the time. The second one is actually some topics I actually talk about. It's funny, I have a book coming out here in a couple months. It's really just all about healthcare 3.0 in general. And one of the things that I'm talking about is like, hey, you're actually not going to do this at scale unless you have a very large community of people that are doing this almost like asymmetrically. So it's like you have this group like, over here that's just going to continue let's call it like the monolith that is the current system. And
so like your control group.
Yeah. Like you'll have
status quo.
Exactly. All these people will continue to operate over here. At the same time, you're going to have much more visionary people like operators, like kind of break away from that and start like coming up with solutions outside of this, where it's like you have a clean line of like, here's how the old guard operates. Here's how the new guard operates. Now you start publishing this data between those two sets and you start saying like, hey, people are just getting better outcomes over here. We need to shift that Overton window further over this way. And like, that's how you start to like uncrumple the aluminum foils. Like people see this, like, it's like, I think Hamilton said it the best. He was like, you're never going to change the hearts and minds of the adults. You're going to win it through the children. And I think that like the longer that this goes on, like, you look at Generation Z, right? Like some of the stuff that they work on, some of the stuff they talk about, like they see the flaws. Like I think that's why there's so much apathy and stuff, is because like they're starting to see how broken a lot of stuff is. Mm-hmm. And until they actually start seeing data of like how the stuff gets fixed, you're going to see them become much more apathetic. But they have the opportunity to like become like one of the greatest generations ever. So I think that there's a lot to uncouple or decouple there.
So how many generations do you think it takes? I mean, I know AI and information is moving at light speed. What do you envision that adjustment from where we are today to healthcare 3.0? What's a timeline for you? What do you see in the future?
Yeah, I think
put your Oracle glasses on.
Yeah, right. Like, I think that the foundations are getting laid today. And I think that the adoption curve is something a lot like the iPhone. Where, at the beginning it was like you were weird to like not want to have a BlackBerry and a keyboard. And like, like you were seen as like kind of like an outcast. But I'll never forget, I was one of those weirdos that stood in line at Apple to get the iPhone day one. And I used it to cheat so hard in high school. It was crazy. Like, and so like I got these distinct advantages. Like my teachers thought it was a calculator, and I was like Googling answers, like, like I said, answers in my like history classes and stuff. And they were like, "Oh, that's
It's a
cool."
good thing there's a statute of limitations on this.
Yeah. Sorry, like for high school, I still got my diploma, but yeah, so I'm saying that there will be distinct advantages for those first movers, and the more that people start to see those fruits from like those efforts from people, like the faster the adoption curve happens. And so,
I
like,
think a lot of people, they want to have the mallet, they want to smash things up and make changes. What are the things that you've learned along the way as you start? And I know you're not, you're still kind of in the breaking phase that kind of helped you not only have the confidence that you can continue to keep going and you're seeing the successes, but what got you to pick up the hammer in the first place? Like what were some of the things that really not incentivized you, but like encouraged you? Like what got you feeling good about the direction you're headed in?
well, I have a great wife, a great family, very supportive. That makes things a lot easier. Believe it or not, if you don't have a wife that's screaming at you that you need to stop working at 2 a.m., it's probably a pretty good wife. So I think that's like a one huge advantage. But one of the main reasons why I really want to get into is because, like, dude, I was so failed. Like, I have so many just like crazy like experiences and stories about like healthcare in general, but also like faith and some other stuff that have like kind of like made me the person I am today. But like, I'll give you this. So like high school, right? High school, since we're talking about cheating on history tests. I was like the fat funny kid, right?
I
Like,
love how you said cheating on history tests when you just quoted Hamilton. But okay, fat funny kid, ready to go.
Yeah. I might have picked something up. The iPhone might have taught me a few things too, but yes, like high school, I was like the fat funny kid, right? And I had this huge crush on this girl, and being the fat kid, it was like, oh, you're probably gonna not get her, and then end up like, she ends up falling for one of your guy friends, and like it's like a crushing experience for like a high school guy, you know what I mean? Like not getting the girl, it's like the opposite of the movie where you like either become like a hero after that or the villain. And I was like, all right, which one am I going to become? And so like I set off that at the end of that summer, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just like cut 100 pounds in the summer. I'm going to play college hockey. I'm going to show everyone that they're wrong and I'm the shit and I'm going to be cool. And so like I did it. Like I just like basically like starved
There's
myself.
nothing like a chip on your shoulder to get momentum started.
That is it. That's the world of the story. Honestly, you're jumping ahead on. Yeah, it's like, dude, like something about that primal motivation of like, dude, can't believe I lost a girl. That was like a huge piece. And so like that was a temporary motivating factor though, that ended up like helping me like essentially like kind of be pretty unhealthy and like starve myself for like a summer and like run like, like 6 miles a day and like, like get into like really good shape. And help me get into
that's the entrepreneurial start, right? I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to will it to happen. And I'll figure it out along the way, even though I might, break some stuff along this journey. It'll all come together and better.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I go through that, get into college, get a great girlfriend. I ended up dating some girl for like 6-7 years after that. She was great. It was awesome. I was not the best, as you can imagine, living at the hockey house and playing hockey in college. Like, it adds up and it's a challenging experience for everybody. And, so I end up in the good shape. I was in great shape. And then after college and like after going into Fortune 5 and having a couple kids, I found myself right back to being the fat guy. And I was like, dude, what am I going to do this time? And I tried to do the same thing I did before. Body did not. Body was like, dude, not again. You can't just will this to happen a second time. So I'm like, okay. So I started doing some homework, research, like found out about like these concepts like the GLPs. like changed a lot of my lifestyle and stuff, and really took it serious. And at that point, I was like, okay, I can do this for the long haul. And so that was like a huge part of like actually the medical system and getting access to these things, and like trying this is way too hard. Like it should have been something that like anyone could have just told me like, hey, you should just go get on one of these GLPs and like adjust some lifestyle stuff lightly and you'll be way healthier. So like that was like a huge aha moment, and I was like, okay, well, if the healthcare system has failed me so hard, being like, it's this fat dad and all this other stuff, then like I'm sure it's not just me. And I start looking into the data. I'm like, oh man, if someone has metabolic syndrome, there are 90% higher chances of cancer and 70% higher chances of heart attack. But if you just like take those away, now for me, I'm like, don't have to worry about that. Like I had 5 kids, like I don't want them to have no dad by the time I'm 45, like I want to be here for them. Mm-hmm. And so like, I think that by democratizing access is step one, then it also opens your mind to like, okay, what do I need to do to like continue to improve? Because like, again, once you feel like you look better and you like enjoy yourself, like, with the shirt off, right? As corny as that sounds, the more you're like interested and you're like, holy shit, what's happening on the inside? Should I get some blood work done? Like, what are the other things I can do to like improve?
So that was a lot of the things that get you there are really cutting out the things that are going to shorten your lifespan anyway. I mean, you start cutting down on sugar and complex carbohydrates, and you start thinking a little bit more about protein for muscle development. I mean, and then you start to learn on top of the early stuff that you're figuring it out, and you're reading this, you're reading that. The hard part is there's no, to your point, you're saying this customized approach. There's no real customized approach that I found.
None, zero. And as soon as you try to go that route, it becomes incredibly difficult. Like the doctors are not incentivized to want to help you that way. The doctor's incentivized to like stay within that rule book so that they don't get sued. And so it's like, it's this vicious cycle of like, I'm unhealthy. I go see someone that I'm supposed to trust and like make me healthier. And then I come out even more unhealthy because they put me on a drug or something that doesn't really help me. And then like, you just are slowly just dying. This is like a very depressing concept. And so I think that this needs to be blown up. I mean, and then you couple that with like just some of the pure like just ineptitude that happens at some of these places. Like great example. It was like 2021. I had just gotten like my yearly physical done. I had insurance, I had all the stuff. It was great. Went to get my blood work done. Insurance picked it up. Like 2-3 months later, I go to apply for the mortgage. I'm like 2 weeks out from the closing, and I get a call from the banker, and they're like, "Hey, I thought you said you had like an 800 credit score. Like, what's going on? Like, your credit score is like 600." I'm like, "Dude, what?" And then go to find out that one lab company, I'm not going to name names. I wish I could, but I'm not going to. They decided that
rhymes with sounds like. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
don't even go there.
It's very fast. But yeah, they ended up sending my $60 lab to collections because they messed up the coding on the billing. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? So I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I just paid the thing, found out that was the worst thing you could do. Should have fought it. So I ended up getting this ding on my credit score. And my rate went from like, 2.5 back then to like a 3.8. And like, so that one decision from the medical industry cost me, $200,000 over the lifetime of a 30-year mortgage. So, but like, again, if you just start compounding all these failures in the healthcare system for every single person that exists in the US, like you start to realize how broken this place is. When I think about like our health club, like it's this, we like to try like super new and like innovative things that like probably are like a few years too early, truthfully. But like, I think that it is important for like how people view like even the brand that I'm building, the company that I'm building, to be seen like a forward thinker, like you're saying. So like our health club, it's like, imagine like a gym meets a functional medicine practice, meets an aesthetics provider, meets a recovery center. So it's like, you can walk in, you can go work out with like a really high quality personal trainer. You walk out of there, you go jump into the red light sauna, get out of there, go get your like HRT pellets put in. And then as soon as you're done with that, you like put on the, the compression leggings and do the meditation course, and then wrap up with a facial. like, and then you're on your way, all under one roof. And I think that that kind of stuff is like where the future state of medicine is going to go. It's like, hey, well, how do you get to be around the best of the best, like the experts in all of these areas that are really going to help you, like, again, look, feel, and perform your best.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. I wanted to just take a second to thank everyone who's been tuning into Business Unchained since day one. You know, this community, it means a lot to me. And I'm super excited to finally be able to share a big project that I've been working on for some time now, which is my book, Unchained, the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business, and life balance. It's part memoir, part roadmap, and it just dives deep into my story, the experiences, the mistakes, and the lessons that have shaped how I think about building a business and life. Everything I talk about on the show is rooted in that journey, and in the book, I dig that much deeper. Unchained's available now. Grab your copy through the link or the show notes, or head over to bobbymascia.com. I appreciate you all, and I'm now taking you back into the show. Thank you. So as you start to put this idea together and you're thinking about, you know, Eden and the evolution of where you are or where you started to where you are now, what was kind of your biggest aha moment? Like, what was the one thing where you didn't, I'm going to leave it at that. What was your biggest aha moment?
Yeah, it was,
I tend to lead the witness. I'm not going to lead the witness. I want to know, what was your biggest aha moment?
Yeah, I would have to say it was when we got to our first like 1,000 patients, which was not very long. It was like very, very quickly. And I was like, holy shit, like this thing is way more broken than I thought. Like people do just really want to access this to improve their lives. And like, honestly, like I went from feeling like very alone in the thinking of like healthcare to like, wow, like there is actually something here. And the second one is, you know, even my wife, like kind of bringing some stuff up, like, hey, you just seem like you're just happier, which I didn't know how to take at first. I was like, well, you think I'm a happy guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, come on, guys. But she was like, yeah, no, you just seem like you're way happier, like doing this than when you're, you know, back at Dana. And like, those are like the moments that like, I wouldn't say it's like full on aha, but it's like, you know, you're like getting it. It's like, you're like, wow, I think I'm making the right decision.
So what's next?
Next for me is a lot this year. It's really about taking the machine that we built and being able to take yourself out of it. So like for me, like as an operator, as a founder, you know, it's like, I'm sure you can appreciate, like a lot of people still come to you for all sorts of issues within the business, right? And it's like, how do you start pulling yourself out of those things to then focus on even bigger things? Like,
simple. You read my book, Unchained, now released in Amazon store. No,
no, exactly. I think that's
I feel your pain. I feel your pain.
Yeah, no, I think it's an apropos plug for exactly kind of the stuff that is next for somebody like me. Yeah, instead of focusing on like the day-to-day of working in the business, it's really about working more on the business. And like, that means it's a lot, right? It's like hiring the right people. It's like putting really good systems in place. It's about making like an operator's framework and like handbook for like the teams to be able to make decisions at scale. And then that frees me up to like go work on like government deals and like, how do I like find a handful of states that are like, hey, you know, like we like the way that you're thinking about healthcare because our Medicare expenses are through the roof and we can't afford this anyways. So like, how do we do that? And so like, that's like, I think one of the biggest things for me, but I would really say it boils down to like just people, or like people to me are like the most important thing. Like one of the best things we did was I brought in a guy, he was like our first hire at Eden. And I really consider him, he's like a late co-founder, basically. Like, you know, he's got a big equity stake too. So he's a huge part of our business, but like making that first hire and like finding someone that's just as passionate as you are is so important. And like, and so it's about being able to replicate that feeling, that desire out of the rest of the employees is like a huge value add. And so it's always about like leveling up the organization, you know, like how do you level people up, manage people out or in, and then make sure that they can execute on the vision that you're laying out.
Now, how do you prioritize the things that you want to attack? You know, when you go through processing that, are you try to tackle everything at once and just see how the chips fall? Or are you methodically kind of thinking through the next 12 months and saying, this is exactly what I need to have happen in order for me to attain what I believe Eden's next steps or next iteration looks like?
There's like two sides of me. I'm like Scarface sometimes, where like half of me is like normal and the other half is like psycho, I think. So like the normal side of me is like, okay, we're going to just put things in a quadrant of like, like high value, low value, or like high effort, low effort. And then we're always shooting to be, in that quadrant that's low effort, high value.
High value.
And like, consistently prioritizing around that. But the other side of me is like, psycho, where I'm thinking like huge, like, like between like the 2 and 3 year to 5 year plan of like, okay, well, what does it look like to bring US manufacturing back? Like, how do I start integrating a lot of like the huge ideas that I have? And like I said, coupling that with states and like, doing grant proposals and like actually like doing huge parts of the project and like moving those things towards like 1% every day. And so like, it really comes down to like my framework of like, how do I prioritize is like, what can I do that no one else can do? And what can I do the best? And then how do I just continually execute on those things day to day to day?
How do you self-identify that? How do you go, this is what I'm best at? This delegate the rest of it out?
And so there's a couple things. Like there's things that like cause you to like naturally burn out. And then there's things that like give you energy, right? Like you hear like the classic like introvert extrovert thing. Like for me, like I genuinely enjoy, like I said, talking to people and like relationships and like just getting to know people, how their families are doing, like, like what they're up to. And like, those are like areas like once you identify like what your superpowers are and that they give you energy, like those are things that like are easy for you to like naturally just continue to double down on. And then the things that like maybe like cause ire and like make you depressed are like things that like will also sometimes move the business forward. So you either have to really identify like, hey, I have to conscientiously like try to like focus on a few of these things, like one at a time, or you have to really find people that are really good at them and then put them in those positions. So for me, like example, I really like to like do sales and like do like, relationship building and stuff. So like I'll spend a lot of time on that because I'm pretty good at it and I know how to like move things forward. And I hate doing paperwork and I hate doing operations. I'm okay at it. Like I can do them, but like it drains me.
Yeah, it takes away a lot of that positive energy, brings a lot of negative energy,
Yeah. And that's probably not the right answer for a lot of people, but like, it's kind of just what's worked for us, worked for me, especially. Like,
what do you see are the couple of hurdles that you have in front of you for the year?
Yeah. I think obviously like there's like always, when we started, there was only like 2 companies doing what we're doing. Now there's like over 4,000. It's never been easier to like actually become like an entrepreneur in the space. So like then there's some people with really deep pockets that are coming in, like we're bootstrapped, which, and again, since we've done it very differently, like I prioritized like actually building the infrastructure for healthcare 3.0, whereas other people are just like, I want to make a bunch of money. So there's different entrants and different risks,
different motivations. Yep.
And so like, just staying core, like the beliefs is a big thing to me. But I think that the other side is like, there's also really smart people that are existing. Like I was supposed to go to Yale for my MBA, but found out I was having a kid. So I skipped it and then built a business instead. Whereas like some of those guys that got into Yale at the same time are graduated and, didn't have the kid and they have a little bit more free time to just focus on execution. So I think those are some like the hurdles. But again, like I always go back to, it's just the people.
Those are life hurdles. Life hurdles are always tough because, if you want to keep that nucleus together, that family nucleus, there are some things that you have to sacrifice. But yeah, I think you said find the right people to help pick up some of those pieces should be a path of lesser resistance. No?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that like you probably know better than most. I mean, coming from like a core, like of a family business too, like that, like there's opportunities with that. And there's also big challenges, I think, with that. And it really comes down to like, what do you really want to get out of the business? Like, are you doing it for a legacy? Are you doing it for, like just getting kids through college? Like, what are the motivations?
What's your motivation?
For me, it's going to sound kind of cliche, but like, truthfully, it's like, I just want to do more God's work, man. Like I want to like make the world like a way better place for my kids to grow up in. I think that it's like on us to do that. And the more that we can focus on like improving that, the better.
So what would you say to somebody who is feeling stuck, has a little bit of that entrepreneurial mindset, but has a real purpose-driven idea and wants to figure out how to execute it, obviously knows that they have to monetize it. What's some advice that you would give to somebody to get them unstuck?
It's funny. I just did this with my nephew, actually, this last week, actually 2 weeks ago. He's kind of stuck. I've given him like a job inside of our company. He had like some health things going on. So like he had to like kind of take a step back, but he like still wants to do it. And like he became like crypto bro millionaire, like did all the stuff. Like he's just gotten a little lucky. But he's like, dude, I don't know what I want to do. And I was like, he's like, I'm kind of stuck. Like, I don't know what's next. I'm like, what do you like? Like, what do you enjoy? Like, what is a problem that you want to solve? So we started talking. He goes, well, I like Pokemon cards. I like collecting them with like your kids. Like it's fun. I was like, okay, so can you monetize that? And he goes, yeah, I mean, we could sell them. I'm like, okay, well, where would you sell them? What does it go to market? And like, we start kind of like unpacking that. And then this past Saturday, just like as a side hobby, we like have you ever heard of Whatnot?
No.
Okay. It's crazy. It's like, it's honestly the future of what I think selling is like. So like, if you have like some boomer friends, like I'm sure they're really familiar with like QVC and like HSN. Like my parents just fucking buy shit. There's like boxes.
I love how he says if you have boomer friends. Meanwhile, you and I'm looking at Jess across the way, and she starts laughing. Boomer friends, like that's the shit that we grew up on.
yeah, exactly. But like they're all watching HSN, just like kind of like watching them, the jewelry, the bag, like oh, it's the best vacuum ever, and you fucking buy 6 of them.
And like, if you buy it now, there's a special offering. We're gonna attach to it a second one for 50%.
So like, well, Whatnot is like the Zoomer version of HSN. So it's like imagine TikTok meets eBay, and like they had a baby. That's Whatnot. And so like you're like doing this live, fast-paced auctions of like stuff, and like people are like creating businesses out of nowhere. And I was like, all right, dude, well, let's just take the first step. Like, let's just do a show on Saturday. Like, dude, we sold 150 products in one day.
That's crazy.
Like doing like a 4-hour stream. Like you're just like live streaming yourself, like just showing cards. And so like that was the advice I gave him. I was like, dude, you just have to take the first step. Like you just have to like find something you care about, understand how you can bring it to market, and then just start trying it. Like, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, I mean, yeah, we probably lost money on the first show, but like who gives a shit? We had fun. It was cool. Like, he bailed on me. I was like packing boxes till like 3 a.m. on Sunday. Trying to get them out. I was like, dude, you're an asshole. Like, why'd you make me do this? Like, oh, I wasn't feeling good. I was like, you fucking piece of shit. But you think you're your family, yeah.
I love that, man. And that's usually what it is, right? It's that first domino. Once that first domino falls, the rest of them just start to naturally kind of take their way down. So that's great advice. I love it. Dude, I appreciate you being on, spending the time jumping on here. And you're a busy guy with a busy schedule. And for people who are wanting to join the revolution, they want to learn more about you. They want to learn more about Eden. They're thinking about the 3 things that are going to make them happy, which is looking better, feeling better, and better libido. So how do people find you if they're looking for you?
Yeah. So today I would say LinkedIn is super easy. Also the company, the website is super accessible. Just tryeden.com, TRYEDEN.com. If you're in Denver, stop into the health club. It's like I said, it's a revolutionary concept, super cool. Take you and your family in there and you'll have a great time. But yeah, I'm pretty accessible.
What about speaking engagements? The book is coming soon. Do you have any updates on that, or do we have to send that out later on?
Yeah, so the book, I'm finishing up. It should be ready to go by the end of February. So we'll be like publishing, going through the whole process. I have a PR team that'll be, I'm sure the experience. There's a whole PR process that you have to go through. But no, we're just really excited. And yeah, we'll be doing a lot of speaking engagements on the topic. I think we just barely touched like some of the tip of the iceberg on some of the stuff today. But yeah, it's super, super cool. It's something really easy to get passionate about.
To your point, we can edit the shit out of this. So, I mean, what did we said we just touched the tip of the iceberg. Are there things that you think make more sense to go a little bit deeper on? What did we miss that would have been valuable to this conversation for entrepreneurs who are here listening?
And so like for me, like, hey, this parallel healthcare world needs to start being brought together by people that genuinely care and like want this thing to break. They want it to destroy. They want it to die. And the only way to do that is like you get people motivated enough and you like start helping them carve out certain sections of like how that system worked and then like improving on it for this overall framework. So like what I'm doing is like all the shit that I'm building, dude, is like all open source. Like I'm going to give everything that we do away for free. Like in terms of like the tech, like in terms of like access, like everything is just going to be open source. Like I'm not really doing it for the money, which I know is like crazy to say out loud, but like I'm really not. And so like how I end up like putting all this together is like in the book, I'm literally talking about how there needs to be like chapters of this shit that like starts popping up. Like, you know, like, hey, like I'm going to like have a website that has like all the tools to like essentially create your own like healthcare 3.0, like governance committee inside of a hospital, like, you know, your own like piece to like make sure that like all these like rules of ethics and frameworks are adopted so that we can create the parallel healthcare economy.
But you need people to create this community with you. You can't do it on your own.
Exactly.
And that's going to be the hard part of really kind of taking yourself out of one and creating the other, and the pains, the temporary pains that you might feel in between there. But, you know, to your point, things need to change.
Exactly. And I think the only way to do it, like I said, that's why I really espouse like what Hamilton's saying. I think that like, you know, men that plant trees today knowing that they'll never enjoy the shade of tomorrow is like a really profound thing to me. And I think that we'll get to enjoy some of the fruits. You know, like I'm 34. So like I'm doing a lot of this selfishly because like, dude, I don't want to go to some nursing home.
I am super excited to see as this unfolds, as the book comes out, as you continue to grow this into what you envision it to be. I appreciate your time, man. And this was great.
Thank you. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, this is fun. I'd love to go the other way too, because I know you got a lot to share. Like we should definitely catch up outside of this too.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. If you've been listening to Business Unchained, you know we're creating conversations that matter. Real stories and strategies to help business owners and entrepreneurs win. We've been putting a lot of work into these episodes in our online community, bringing you content that can actually move the needle for your business. And we're everywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, TikTok, you name it, we're there. So look, if you're getting value from what we're doing, please follow, subscribe, and drop a quick comment or like. It really helps us grow this thing. Just search Business Unchained and you'll find us everywhere.